Hello and welcome to Cooking Through the Collection. My name is Melissa and I'm a librarian and home cook. I do a lot of research when wanting to expand my repertoire of cooking, and so I've challenged myself to walk through the stacks of my library's cookbook collection and grab things I've never tried before. So let's see what I've selected this episode. I admit I fell off the podcasting horse. It got really busy with my job. I haven't pod faded, I promise. It finally was inspired back in May to bake something, and then the weather just got unbearably hot, and so now we're even cooking less overall. I wanted to have something that would be quick to throw together, high in protein, and I could rotate into our regular schedule. I remember this recipe that I found online that I cannot find now. It was a burger, and it had walnuts and rice and black beans in it. It was delicious and actually held up on the grill as well. So I started going through the vegetarian section in the library again, trying to find some sort of veggie patty burger situation that would be really good, would be very quick and easy to throw together. Because this time it's been heat index 106 Fahrenheit here. That is just too hot to be in the kitchen. So for this episode, I selected The Vegetable Eater, the new Playbook for Cooking Vegetarian by Cara Mangini. It is really well organized. It's a sturdy book, lots of tips and variations and shortcuts for each recipe to make it more to your taste, make it easier. Actually, for the recipe that I did choose, it has a few shortcuts, and I did decide to take them. The recipe ingredients are really easy to read. It marks when something should have a swap, a shortcut, a note, or a variation. It's broken down into categories that make sense, so it's very easy to flip through when you're looking for something. So the recipe I selected is on page 87, which is under the section Sandwiches, Tacos, Pizza, and Quesadillas. It is classic beet and black bean burgers. And so let's go into the kitchen and test this out. So hello everyone. I am now in the kitchen and I'm going to be trying to make classic beet and black bean burgers. And it looks like a really straightforward recipe, as in you're not going to hear me in the kitchen a lot, but we're going to go through it anyway. So it says 2 large cloves of garlic. These are very large cloves, but as we know from previous episodes, I love garlic. So we'll just do a quick peel. And we're going to be using half of what it says it should be a small white onion. I have a half of a medium onion, so I probably will use most of it, but not all of it. So 2 large garlic cloves peeled. 1 cup of rolled old-fashioned oats, which are the oats I always keep on hand. It's the ones I use the most for baking. I prefer their texture to the more processed ones, and they also don't take as long to cook. A half small onion, cut into 6 chunks. Smoked paprika, salt, cumin, ground pepper. So there's going to be a lot of you not hearing this because I don't want to blast your ears out, but we're going to process the garlic in the bowl of the food processor with the standard blade on high until it's completely minced and stuck to the bottom and sides of the bowl. So here we go. Okay, that actually didn't take as long as it says. Scrape down the sides of the bowl. So I'm going to use my mini rubber scraper because it's really flexible. It's actually great to get things out of jars. So I'm scraping down the sides of the bowl. And then we're going to do the onion. Now we're going to add the oats, beets, and onions. So the oats, we want 1 cup of rolled old-fashioned oats. So 8 ounces of cooked peeled beets. Stem ends trimmed and quartered. Luckily, there's a shortcut section for most of the recipes, and it suggested buying pre-cooked beets, which actually you can now get them vacuum sealed. There's a few different brands. They're cooked beets ready to eat. And it said it wanted an 8-ounce package, and I found an 8.8-ounce package. I don't think I'm going to do better than that. They are already cooked, so I don't have to do the roasting. I don't have to do the peeling. However, these dye your hands. So what I'm doing, because I need to cut them up a little bit, I'm spraying my cutting board and my knife. So when I open this package, hopefully it won't stain too much. I will probably be staining my hands. So it said to quarter them. These are really small, so I'm just going to half them. They're just vacuum packed in here. They're kind of the size of golf balls. You can find them marinated in vinegar so they can go right onto salads. Or you can actually just get them plainly roasted like this. No pickling, no adding of anything, so they are ready to go. And the one reason this book looked interesting to me, because each of them look like they do have a lot of shortcuts, and I need faster recipes sometimes. On a weeknight, sometimes I've been too ambitious, and then I'm just spending too much of my time cooking, and then I'm just sad at the end of a work day. So try to not make a gigantic mess, as I have now just done. I'm thinking the 8.8 ounces is fine to go over, but maybe I'll hold just a little bit back of some of the beet, making sure it's not too wet. So for this onion, it says half of a small onion. And since this is a medium onion, I'm actually going to not use all of it again. I'm going to use a little less than half of it. Cut into 6 chunks. So actually fairly small because we are putting it through the food processor. It said 6 pieces. So we're going to do kind of 1, 2, and we're going to throw them in. So we are going to add the oats, beets, and onion, pulse in 5 1-second intervals until the beets and onions are roughly chopped. So we're going to do 5 1-second intervals. So we're basically going to be pulsing it. So we're going to put the lid on. Okay, until they're chopped, we're going to add the smoked paprika, salt, cumin, and pepper first. So let's get our measuring spoons. It says we want to have 2 teaspoons of smoked sweet paprika. We need 1.5 teaspoons of fine sea salt. That's actually what we use as our regular salt in this kitchen. We need a teaspoon of ground cumin, then a quarter teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper, which I've learned is about 20 grinds on our pepper grinder. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So we're going to do that. And then it also says a tablespoon of molasses. I love molasses. It's been part of my childhood experience. I'm also going to get a separate spoon for this because this is messier. This is also another thing where I'm going to spray a little bit of oil on both sides so it is a little bit easier to clean afterwards, especially when you're doing lots of baking and you have to use something multiple times. It really can come in handy. So we have the tablespoon of the molasses and then cider vinegar. We need a teaspoon of unfiltered apple cider vinegar. Pulse in 3 1-second intervals now to incorporate and further break it down. 3 1-second intervals. We can count. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so for the protein to be the binder together, it says you can either make a thick flaxseed egg, which you can look at page 88 to make the replacement, or 1 large egg lightly beaten. I don't have any flax seeds, and my husband and I can eat eggs. I actually love to eat eggs. We have tried to get as farm fresh eggs as much as possible. Let me quickly rinse my hands. So it did say lightly beaten, so let us quickly work through that. It's in a very little dish, so it's going to take actually a little bit longer. I've added the egg, place the container in the sink, and half of the rice. So it says 2 cups of cooked and cooled brown rice. See shortcuts. It says you can purchase brown rice or cook it ahead and let it sit. What I have decided to do was to buy steamed jasmine brown rice. We want to put 1 cup in now, and it is very stuck in the container. I think these are ones that usually steam unopened, but I didn't want to heat it up when it says to be cool. That seems kind of silly. Okay, so that's 1/2 of the brown rice, and that looks like about half the container. And this is the point of the recording where my microphone died in the kitchen. So I apologize for that, everyone. But the rest of the recipe was basically adding the first half of the beans and the rice to the recipe, pulsing 3 times for a second each to incorporate everything without breaking down the beans, scraping down the sides of the bowl, adding rest of the beans and rice, and pulsing 5 to 7 times, 1 second each. And it was kind of evenly combined and coarsely chopped, which is what it said to do. And some beans should remain whole or halved. The mixture will be fairly wet, but will hold together closely. And then I transferred it to a bowl, stirred it up, and wrapped it tightly. And it says to refrigerate the dough 8 to 24 hours. Even 1 to 2 hours will improve the texture. Because there's a lot of weirdly textured bean patties out there, I decided to do the full rest. So I am back in the kitchen. It has been about 20 hours since I made the filling. And so we have done that, and it said it would improve the texture. Hopefully it has. Because I've learned that veggie burgers can definitely be kind of soggy. We're now at to shape the burger patties, line a sheet pan with a piece of parchment paper. I have already done that because that noise is really loud on mic. We're going to spoon the chilled mixture into a cylindrical half-cup measure, packing and leveling without overfilling it. And then we're supposed to tap it in our hand and directly onto the parchment. So I don't have a cylindrical mold or anything, unfortunately. I looked through everything. I might have at one point. I do not. So what I'm going to try is one of my large cookie / ice cream scoops. And I'm going to spray a half cup measuring, and I'll spray the scoop. And let's see how many scoops does it take to fill it. I think it's going to be 2. So let's pull out the filling. It is very red. I'm not that surprised. But it looks almost like Beyond Burger meat. I don't know if any of you have tried that, but that is a beet focused. So I'm going to take 1 scoop. We'll push it in to the mold, and that looks about 2/3 full. So let me do a scoop, and then we'll do half a scoop and just see if that tops it off. So that comes out to about a half cup. So I know the measuring cup isn't really going to mold and work, but we're going to try it. And it says how far am I supposed to press these out? Yeah, so it says a half cup measure, packing and leveling without overfilling. Tap on your hand on the parchment until it's released. Gently reshape. But it doesn't say a cylindrical 3-cup measure. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave them from the measuring cup. It did come out kind of cylindrical, and it's about 3 inches wide. So we're just going to work with that. So again, we're going to use a scoop and a half. I'm going to use it as a mold. So it's not cylindrical mold, but it is round. So I'm going to form all these up. It says if you're not going to be using them, you want to freeze them on the parchment until they're solid. And this is supposed to make, quote, about 8 burgers. So I'm going to make 4 tonight, and I will freeze 4. It's working pretty well. I think oiling the scoop and the measuring cup is working in my favor because they're definitely coming out faster. Of course, as soon as I said that, one stuck a little bit. I don't really see the rice or the beans that much. It really is pretty uniform. I can tell it's not meat, though it feels stickier somehow. Not quite sure. So I have 4. It says about 8, so let's see what we come out with this run of things. So we are at number 5. Do you guys have a favorite veggie patty recipe? If you do, just let me know. You can send an email to cookthecollectionpod@gmail.com, or you can write to me on Instagram. Those are usually the 2 best places to reach me. I'm addicted to both of them, I admit. Especially doing food things. I get a lot of inspiration from them. I also get a lot of impulse purchasing things, especially related to food there as well. So I'm now on patty number 7. I don't want to get it all over everything. So there's just going to be this little bit of extra, which I guess what I'm going to do is I'll form it and try to distribute it between the rest of them. It's almost like a muffin, when you're doing muffin batter or cupcakes, you have that extra bit. So what I'm going to try to do is portion it between all of them, and then I'm going to clean up, and I will be right back. Okay, I am back. I have cleared the decks, and it says to immediately freeze burgers you aren't using, so I'm taking half, and I'm going to be freezing them. If they're any good, I will give one to a coworker who is vegetarian. When ready to cook, we're going to heat 4 tablespoons of canola oil in a large skillet over medium heat. That is a lot of canola oil. For some reason, I thought this recipe was going to let me grill them. Again, as we know, I didn't read this recipe as clearly as I should have. I'm definitely out of practice. This is what happens when you don't read the instructions. But 4 tablespoons of canola oil is a fair amount. So this feels like it's more of a frying situation than anything else. 4 tablespoons is 1/4 cup. I have a 14-inch stainless steel pan. It is not nonstick. So we're going to put that in. It says heat it to medium heat. And the interesting thing about this recipe, it says serve it specifically with all the things you normally would serve hamburgers with. So we will be using tomatoes today because we have some early season tomatoes. I'm very excited. My tomatoes are growing nicely in my garden. The herbs have been doing great though. When that oil begins to shimmer, we're going to place the patties 3 to 4 at a time and cook until they're browned and crisp, 3 to 4 minutes. And it's 5 minutes if they're frozen. Carefully flip them with a spatula and press them down to flatten them slightly. They'll be about 3 inches wide. Cook the other side until browned and crispy, tilting the pan to distribute the oil. And then it's going to fry them another 2 to 3 minutes, or 4 to 5 minutes if they're frozen. So on my stove, it seems like I'm not sure that medium's going to be hot enough, so I am upping to 6.5 on the dial of my stove. And hopefully, shimmering doesn't happen on medium on my stove, so it's definitely harder. And since I don't really have a sample of something to throw in, let me find something I can throw in just to see how it's doing. And I also want to use, since these are kind of delicate, I'm going to use what's called a fish spatula. It's very thin, flexible. A pancake turner would probably work as well. So let's see. Are we there yet? No. So I threw a little tiny test piece of the filling in, and it is sizzling a little bit. So I'm going to carefully drop these in. Make sure I don't mess them up too much because they're very wet. So I'm going to try to not tear them. I can definitely see, I think freezing or letting them firm up would definitely help. So these are quite thick. We're going to do 3 minutes and we will see how they are if they have to go through another minute. So we will be back shortly. So I'm worried these are going to fall apart.
I actually don't think they will. They look like they're holding up pretty well.
So I'm back. I decided to do another minute. Those 3 minutes went really quickly, and I don't think there had been much color on them. I'm very afraid to flip these over. 1, because they might break. And 2, because there's a fair amount of oil, and I recently am getting over a burn on my hand from something else. So just a little bit nervous. But we've now been going for 4 minutes, so I'm going to work my best to flip away. I'm using this fish spatula. That wasn't the best flip, but it did hold together. I'm very glad for that. So because it took that longer amount of time, I'm actually going to do the additional minute again. So I'm going to do 3 minutes, and then I believe we're going to pull them off. It says if you're going to add cheese or anything, you want to do it in the broiler, but we are not going to be doing cheese tonight. We are just going to be doing regular condiments and some tomatoes. We are going to transfer them to a paper-lined sheet pan to let them drain a little bit. That shouldn't be too difficult. So what I'm actually going to use is I'm going to use a plate and line it with some paper towel like we do with bacon or cooking anything else. But we're serving this with potato buns because that's our favorite option for a burger. And I'm going to slice up some tomatoes and then I will be back for tasting. So we are back, and Chris is with me. He missed the last episode because I did something with cheese.
Yes.
Are you excited to try this black bean beet burger patty situation?
Yeah, this looks really good. I'm looking forward. You've been working on this for the last day, so I think it's going to be very tasty.
So it says to dress it as you would a regular burger, not have it straight up. So we are doing what the recipe says. I have freshly sliced tomato. I have bread and butter pickles, and he has
sweet fire pickles.
So spicy bread and butter pickles,
Not
and
that spicy.
well, it's not as spicy. It's more spicy than mine, and we have ketchup. So those are the condiments we would typically put on the burger. So let's see what Chris thinks. It's gonna be messy. He's trying to. The tomatoes have all slid off. It held together. We have to say that. It does have a crisp look to it. It's a pretty substantial size patty.
Yes, no, this is getting everything into the bun.
Without the bun ripping. We have hinged buns. We're trying to keep them that way.
Mmm.
He's pointing at it, which is usually a good sign when he's chewing. He's pointing and going, yum. Am I wrong?
No, I just like your description. This is good. I like this.
So how's the texture? Because for me, we know veggie patty textures can be wet.
Yeah.
They can be dry. They somehow can, be burnt.
It's a good texture. It's not the same sensation as beef, but it tastes really good. And I like this. It's got some spice to it. I think that might be the cumin.
There's cumin and there's paprika and there's fresh garlic.
Okay.
The tomatoes are all trying to fall off, but we're not going to allow them to. You can definitely taste that cumin in there. It has a smoky quality to it, which, considering it couldn't go on the grill, this is delicious. It is a little soft. It's more like a meatloaf texture than a ground beef texture. With the condiments, it's a solid, nice burger. It's just a little tender, so you have to be careful when you bite it. I wouldn't want to put it on a firmer bun, like an English muffin bun or something like that. I don't think it would work.
Right.
It needs to be on a potato bun or a brioche because it is very soft. But with the condiments, it's a good, satisfying burger
Has some flavor to it. I think we could totally add more spices.
Yeah.
And kind of take it to wherever. You could probably even take like the chipotles and adobo and use a little bit of that adobo sauce in there just to, give it a little bit more smoke. But no, so what do you think? Thumbs up?
Thumbs way up.
Okay, another successful recipe. This recipe was really good. I'm very happy with how it came out. It's not exactly the recipe that I had before because it has the beets. It's different. I don't think it would hold up in a grill, but it was absolutely delicious. It's really good on a potato roll. So if it turns to borrowing it versus buying it, I'm going to borrow it. I'm going to try to go through a few more recipes in here before I make that big jump. I still want to find that black bean walnut rice burger that I made before. I'm going to keep hunting. If I ever find it, I will post it on social media. The Vegetable Eater, the new playbook for cooking vegetarian, is definitely a great utilitarian piece of work. And sometimes you just need that workhorse and help you get through and bring cooking into your life on a regular basis. Thank you for joining us on Cooking Through the Collection. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing. You can visit the website for more information at cookthecollectionpod.com. You can follow me on Instagram, Cook the Collection Pod. Until next time, happy cooking.